Hi, guys, and today's weekly industry update or weekly webinar, our conversation, I do want to go over real estate assistants. Now, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart due to the fact that I used to be a real estate assistant. Now, many agents in my mind need a real estate assistant. However, most don't actually get one, and that can be for several reasons. Why, whether it's financial, whether they've looked and they just can't find someone, whether they can determine if they need the person full time or part time, or they want it to be somebody who's in house or someone who's virtual. There's so many different variations of real estate assistants, but I did want to cover the topic for those of you who have an interest in getting an assistant. Now, one of the first questions I'm always asked is, why do I need a real estate assistant? Obviously, the most important thing that a real estate assistant can do is free up your time. A lot of the admin tasks can be delegated out, and that will then allow you to focus on just your real estate business, meaning you can just focus on your prospects, your clientele, your leads, and generally, for most sales agents, the social aspect of the job is the one that they prefer the most. So by having an assistant, all of the computer admin paperwork tasks can be delegated to them, and you can really get down to what you enjoy about your business in the first place. A real estate assistant will also implement routine tasks. So there's things that should be done on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and yearly basis. If you guys are busy with clientele, you're busy doing stuff, the routines do not take place. And then a lot of times the routines just kind of fall off, or they're never actually there to begin with. Agents a lot of time have no idea what they should be doing every single day to help achieve their goals. Now, it's true when they say they take 80% off of your responsibilities off of your shoulders. So generally, all you should be doing as an agent is calling your clients, calling your prospects. You should be doing your showings, and you should be doing your listing presentations. That should be your job. And then obviously, offer negotiations or offer presentations. Your real estate assistant, and this can be something that is going to be done whether they are in-house or virtual. Either way, they can actually handle all of the office calls that are coming in. So whether it's actual sign calls coming in, they can be the one who's going to be the first point of contact. Whether it's things that your brokerage, your deal secretary, your front desk need, they will contact the administrator, your assistant or your administrator first, and you will only get those phone calls in a need to know situation. If it's an emergency, it's something that the assistant cannot answer, that's the only time you should get it. Another great thing that assistants can do is with your voicemail. So you guys constantly have calls coming in, you constantly have voicemails being entered in, and quite frankly, a lot of time you guys don't even have the time to check your voicemail. So that's something that the assistant can do every couple of hours throughout the day. They can jot down an email for you letting you know who called and why, and if the assistant can call, then they will do so and will give you an update as to what transpired in that conversation. Managing your marketing. This can be from anything. This is your social media. This is your just sold, just listed postcards. This is maybe your website, your blogs. This can be them creating a feature sheet. Anything you do marketing wise is something that your assistant can do. So if you think about just that alone, that will take out the majority of your time. For those of you who are doing services like Morris Marketing. So you have somebody to create the marketing, and whether they send out an e-blast or they send it out by print, you can actually get your assistant to do that as opposed to hiring outside. That way everything is staying in one place. Handling of the paperwork. This is going to be every single lead, client file, every single listing file. They would be responsible for everything. So they will be the one to make sure that everything is signed and dated and filled out appropriately. They will be the one to make sure that nothing is missing. Any communication that happens with the clientele should be printed out and put into the file. That's a lot of things that the generally us agents don't do on their own. Your assistant should be handling all of that. And now how they're filing the paperwork is up to you, whether that's going to be done actually through printed paper and in a file folder in a file cabinet, or whether they have different folders on a cloud-based system. to have all of your communication there. If they have for sellers, they can create the CMA for you. They can post that there. If you have a pre-listing package, a listing presentation, all of that will be done by the assistant, and you just really essentially have to show up. Once the property is listed, they will have all of the documentation there. So should something go missing, or if your deals office doesn't have everything, they can just go directly to your assistant, who will have everything nice, neatly organized. And same thing goes with a buyer. They'll have the buyer properties that the buyers has already visited. It should have things that the buyer does or does not like. It should keep track of every single showing appointment that you guys have done, any offers that have gone through. The buyer rep, once the offer has gone through, they'll keep track of that. They'll let you know, and this is for both sellers and buyers, keeping track of all of the waivers and the dates that the waivers have to be fulfilled, any amendments, etc. So your office assistant, your real estate assistant, should be handling all of that. Most importantly, other than the freeing up your time, they're there to keep you organized and on track. So you guys have a specific goal each and every day. Your real estate assistant will keep you on track with that, because you're not having to worry about anything else, because you're only worried about conversions and actually dealing with your clientele, talking to your clientele. Everything else you're not going to have to worry about, because they are going to do for you. Now, we've gone over the basic things that the assistant can do for you, but it really, really depends on what type of assistant you have. Are you getting a licensed assistant or an unlicensed? So a licensed assistant is somebody who has the real estate license, just is choosing not to actually be an active real estate agent. And then obviously an unlicensed is somebody who is has not gone through the testing and has not achieved their license. They could be in the process of getting their license, but as of right now, they don't. Now, depending on which one you have, they may be able to do more or less things for you. Keep in mind, the list that I'm going to give you is just an overall type of a list. Depending on where you're located, what board you are a member of, this information can change. The boards are very, very strict according to what the assistant can and cannot do. Now, I'll go through the licensed assistant first, and then I'll go through the unlicensed. Now, keep in mind, anything an unlicensed assistant can do, a licensed assistant can do. So I'm going to start with the licensed and then go from there. Now, a licensed assistant can do an open house, and they can do property showings for you. So if you have an open house, maybe you have multiple properties that came out in the same time frame and you need an open house conducted, your licensed assistants can be there. They can hold that open house for you. The benefit of that is all of the leads that come in on those dates will stay within that team, or they'll stay under your name. When you conduct an open house and you have somebody else doing it for you, any leads they get are their leads. I mean, obviously, the end goal for an open house is to sell the property, which would definitely happen, but new buyer leads will come in through that avenue. Now, also, they can also do property showings. So if you have a buyer and for whatever reason, maybe you're on vacation, maybe you're in other appointments, they can actually take your buyers on showings as well. Now, they can make cold calls. So if you have a geographical farming area and you want to see if anybody has an interest in selling, they do have the ability to go ahead and make those cold calls, because they are legally able to have real estate related conversations in regards to pricing, etc. Now, a licensed assistant can attend a listing presentation. So a presentation with a seller. They also have the ability to do everything essentially that you guys do. They can negotiate the contracts, they can do the listing. So that would be really dealing with the pricing of the property, the commissions, rental agreements, etc. They really have the ability to deal with all of that. Now, an unlicensed assistant does not have the ability to do any of those things. they can do the majority of the admin stuff again. So anytime you have a listing that pops up, they have the ability to broker load that listing, and they can edit it, revise it whenever that needs to get done. So that's not something that essentially you're going to have to worry about. They can most definitely schedule the appointment. So when you have a buyer client, your assistant can actually go ahead and call the other brokerages and book those appointments for you. Also they can do is when you get the confirmations, they should be printing out that list of properties that of those showings for that day. They can order the properties in the time of the booking and obviously write down any of the entrance codes, the lockbox codes, etc. So all of that will be ready for you. The only thing you have to do is show up. Now they can type contract forms. Obviously that's something both of them can do. Definitely, if you have an unlicensed assistant, if they're creating the offers, please make sure you are double checking every single thing that they have done until you know that they are comfortable, A, with the software, B, they're comfortable with the terminology, and just overall they're comfortable and knowledgeable about what is in these contracts. A lot of front desk staff do contracts for agents, but keep in mind the front desk staff don't really understand what they're doing. They're just typing out stuff or just dragging and dropping stuff in, and they may not have a good understanding of what each thing means. So you definitely want to make sure that your unlicensed assistant is aware of all of that. It is my hope that your licensed assistant will already have that knowledge. However, if it's a newer agent or a newly licensed assistant, they may not have that knowledge either. And that might be something you have to go over with both of them. Now they can place for sale signs. They can do update the just solds. Now, a lot of time when you guys have your signs, you're not actually placing them on the property yourself. Most of you guys just have a post installer, a sign installer doing that for you. So that one may not be something that is very important to you. Now, they can also distribute the listing information to the public. So what does that mean? Obviously, they're putting it on MLS already. The second thing they can do is your marketing for the property. So whether they're doing it through social media, whether they're doing print marketing, whether it's just online marketing, they have the ability to do all of that for you. Obviously, their contact information wouldn't be put there. It would be yours. But at the same token, they are going to be the first point of contact. So they are taking the calls in anyhow. Again, as an unlicensed assistant, if they take a phone call, they cannot talk about the property specifically. They can only say, okay, you're interested in this property. I will get so-and-so to call you back. Again, prepare promotional marketing material. That means that it doesn't have anything to do with a specific listing. It is just brand marketing. It's marketing just generally for you. They do have the ability to install lock boxes. They, again, can set up the listing files. They can take photos of the listings. Please don't get your assistant to take photos unless it's like the before, and then you're just going to get staged, and then there's after. The actual photos for the listing should be done professionally by a photographer or a videographer. The complete the fact sheets, to me, that's your feature sheet. So they can go ahead and create the feature sheets, double check them. If you have your virtual tour company is creating the feature sheets for you, or maybe you have an in-house brokerage marketing department, definitely get your assistant to double check everything before it gets printed. And they can also deliver those feature sheets to the property as well. So that's one less thing for you to do. It also gives your sellers, your clientele, a chance to meet the assistant, since generally your assistant is going to be the first point of contact when anyone is looking for you. Now, the delivery of documents and the picking up of the keys, so they can deliver the offer directly to the office if traditionally all of that's done through email. If a status certificate or something of that nature needs to be picked up, that can be done. And they can also drop off the keys to the office if you have no lockbox, or they can drop the keys off to the lawyers, etc. Now, keep in mind, this is not the complete list. There's a ton of other things that the unlicensed assistant can do, but generally you want to make sure that they are not discussing specifics about the real estate market at all. Now, with that being said, we also need to can and cannot do what in choosing what are the pros and cons of each. Now, when you have a licensed assistant, generally the pros are that the person is already trained in the business, they have a good understanding of the real estate industry as a whole, and those are things that you're not going to have to teach. Having the assistant who has already made the career choice to be in real estate is also a benefit. It's going to be more of a long-term relationship. But keep in mind, guys, like I said earlier, just because they are licensed does not mean that they have the experience that you believe that they should have, or the knowledge base that they believe that they should have. Working for myself in a brokerage before and dealing with the newbie agents, the rookie agents, a lot of them didn't really have an understanding of what they were supposed to do aside from what they learned in the courses and their examinations. Nobody really tells agents day to day what you guys should be doing other than sales training. So just because the person is licensed does not mean that they will be able to do everything that you need them to do. Now, the cons of the licensed assistant is, yes, they should cost more. It says may here, but they really should they should cost more because they have that license to back them up. Another con can be with their own clients. So if they have a friend, a family member, somebody in their network who needs to buy and or sell, things can get a little bit tricky there. That really should be something that is discussed ahead of time before they take on this role, or maybe if they started off unlicensed and then they get licensed, that's something that needs to be discussed. If they bring their own client, are they getting 100% of the commission from that, or is that going to be something that is split up? Now, for an unlicensed assistant, the pros are that they have the ability to focus on just the administrative tasks, which will leave you to focus on your lead generation. That will save you a lot of time. The assistant also costs way less compared to the licensed. Now, that is the norm, but keep in mind you might have an unlicensed assistant who has maybe even more knowledge than the licensed assistant. They've been in there for a while. So sometimes the cost of the unlicensed may not be less. Sometimes, in fact, it is more because you don't have to do anything with them. They know everything that they're supposed to do. And they probably know more of what an agent needs to do than you yourself does, because as an agent, you guys get busy. And quite frankly, you guys don't do everything you should be doing in your business. Now, another pro for an unlicensed assistant is if they don't have too much previous real estate experience, they will have fewer bad habits. So they are more like a clean slate for you. Now, the next pro is what I believe is the best thing about an unlicensed assistant. Generally, an unlicensed assistant will have a different personality type. They will have a different interest, and therefore they have different skill sets than you. So they are going to be there to keep you organized. Most assistants have that organization planning nature, so they can really keep you on track. Whereas somebody whose license is more sales oriented, or typically is more sales oriented, so they might not have the organization. So when you are choosing an assistant, keep that in mind. So somebody you may not click with right off the bat, maybe because their personality and their skill set is different, but they still will do an amazing job for you. Now, an assistant who is completely tech savvy is very, very important. Somebody who is going to take the initiative, somebody who's going to learn on their own. So even though they might be unlicensed, they have no intention of being licensed, they still need to know what it is that is your job so they can better help you. A lot of them will have really good marketing experience as well as administrative experience. You might even find someone who's really good with numbers and can do all of your accounting stuff as well. Now, one of the cons is they will require more training. They don't have the knowledge base. They probably just know that you guys sell houses and don't know anything else about the job. So, how you get leads, they have no idea. How you find the clientele, they have no idea. You might find somebody who doesn't have marketing experience at all as well. So, those are things that you have to keep in mind. Now, they might not understand how the commission business works. This is really important depending on how you are choosing to pay your assistant. Is it going to be a base salary plus commissions, or are they just going to have a salary? And I'll be quite honest, for people who are unlicensed, who are more of that organized planning type of mentality, doing a base salary plus commission probably won't work with them. You do want to do just a normal salary income. Yes, they can probably make more the other way. However, most of them need that stability. That's what's comfortable for them. Now, another con is the tasks will have to be laid out, including a detailed checklist. If they have not done real estate ever, you will need to go step by step with them of every single thing that needs to get done. In that case, it's a really good idea. And this is honestly, whether you find a licensed or an unlicensed, it's a really good idea to have a manual for every single thing that happens in your business. That way, if you get a new assistant, the manual is already set. If the person is licensed already, they might do something differently than the way that you like it. So if it's already set there, it'll be no questions asked. Every answer should be in those manuals. Now, with that being said, having the detailed checklists and the task lists, etc., that is not something that will be forever. Once the unlicensed assistant gets the hang of it, which should be within a few months, you should have no problems. Then they'll know exactly what is expected of them. Also, keep in mind there are many companies out there who have courses, so training courses for assistants. So the assistant will know things or should know things about the market and the industry that you've not yet done. They need to be ahead of the curve, meaning they need to know what's going to be popular coming up, and they need to learn all of those things ahead of time and make sure that you're doing them before anybody else is. Now, for the different assistants, it's really up to you whether you want somebody who's in-house or if you want somebody virtual. If they're virtual, that does not mean that they're not going to be able to do a good job. I know a lot of agents have concerns with that, depending on where that person is located. Obviously, if you have a virtual assistant, it is going to be cheaper, especially if the virtual assistant is international. Now, if you have an experienced unlicensed assistant, but they choose to be virtual, they might cost a pretty penny, but they will be able to do everything that they need you to do. Now, having somebody in-house, keep in mind also they're going to work a set number of hours. They're going to be there when you need them. That will be discussed whether they're working weekends or not. And a good thing that you guys would have to discuss for either type of assistant is, does the hours of that assistant stop at 5 o'clock, or can you, if something comes up around 7 o'clock, can you call them and will they be available to do such things for you? So, I mean, you guys have always on the fly bookings with clients. So that would be something that would also have to be discussed when you have an assistant. Really, in my mind, doesn't matter. If this is not your first or second year in real estate, you should definitely have an assistant. They can do so much for you. They will really be able to help you generate more business for you. Now, keep in mind, the assistant's job is to be an assistant. They are not there to convert leads. That will be 100% your sole focus. So converting leads and then working with your clients. Now, for those of you who are here, I hope you have a good idea of the differences between a licensed assistant and licensed. I hope you have a better idea of the different things that the assistant can and cannot do for you. And if at any point in time you guys have questions, maybe you have a new assistant coming up and you want them to learn your CRM system, the system that you're using, and the website editor, please feel free to have them reach out to me. And I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with training them in order to use your system. Your assistants should be able to know in and out all of the different software and the systems that you use. That should not be something that you have to sit down and train them with. That should be something that they can very easily learn on their own time. and obviously have somebody who is going to constantly keep their eyes open to the new technology, new apps, new ways of doing business for you. That way you can always be ahead of the curve. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to use the chat function located on the right-hand side of the screen. And if not, I will say goodbye and have a happy Wednesday. I will keep the chat open just for another minute or so in case someone does have a question.